Las Vegas Aces are on the brink of being eliminated from the WNBA playoffs, and recently they have been in the news for all the wrong reasons. They are down 0-2 in this series, and if they lose tonight, they will be out of the WNBA playoffs. And with their last loss to the Liberty, Becky Hammon had some interesting things to say about her players and how it feels being down.
Well, quite frankly, we haven't had the edge all year. We found it the last month. I feel like we've gained a lot of ground, but the feel was different from the jump. And this is why three-peating is hard. Let's be real.
Remember when the Las Vegas Aces were unbeatable? Yeah, those days are over. They're down 0-2 in the playoffs, and their coach is calling them out. What's going on with this superstar team? Let's rewind to last season. The Aces were on fire. They won back-to-back championships, something no team had done in 20 years. And Aja Wilson, she was a scoring machine, dropping 26.9 points per game and becoming the first player ever to score over 1,000 points in a season. That's insane. But now, it's like we're watching a different team. They're facing elimination, and it's hard to believe. How did the WNBA's dream team become its biggest disappointment? What happened to turn these champs into underdogs? You won't believe what's going on behind the scenes. From off-court drama to injuries and some serious internal struggles, this team's got more plot twists than a soap opera. Let's dive into the messy downfall of the Las Vegas Aces and see if they can turn things around before it's too late.
She throws her team under the bus here and says that her players are in commercials and being celebrities, and that's why they're distracted. However, they have been riding behind her so hard to the fact that she was essentially named MVP of the league this season before the season even began. On top of the fact that this was the same team that has been riding so hard behind Aja Wilson, which, like, totally get it. You should ride behind players on your team.
You'd think being famous would help your game, right? Not for the Aces. Their coach is actually blaming their celebrity status for their poor performance. It's like they've become victims of their own success. Let's talk about what's really going on with this team. They've got endorsements, commercials, and all the glitz and glamour that comes with being champions. But here's the thing, all that fame might be messing with their game. Coach Becky Hammon isn't holding back. She's straight up calling out her players, saying they're in commercials and being freaking celebrities. Can you believe it? The very things that made them stars are now causing problems on the court. It's like they can't balance being famous and being ballers at the same time. Think about it. These players are everywhere. They're in ads, they're on billboards, they're all over social media. It's awesome to see women's basketball getting so much attention.
So if you're going to call out your players for being in commercials and being in celebrities and saying that they're distracted by that, but then in the same vein, like, be advocating for your players to be getting more praise and notoriety. Before one of the games, the entire team was wearing Aja Wilson jerseys. Like, a lot of the things that the Aces have done this season have been kind of theatrical this season, and until they're losing in the playoffs, all of this stuff was like good things and well-deserved and things that the Aces should have been getting, and it was always like this Aces versus everybody mentality.
But there's a downside. All these commitments are taking time away from practice and team bonding, and Hammon's not happy about it. But wait, it gets even messier. Remember that $100,000 sponsorship deal? Yeah, the one that seemed like such a big win for the team. Well, now it's turning into a huge headache. The league's investigating it, and it could change how WNBA players make money off the court. Talk about pressure. And you know what's crazier? This investigation isn't just about the money. It's shaking up the whole team dynamic. Imagine trying to focus on your game when there's all this drama going on behind the scenes. It's like trying to shoot free throws while someone's yelling in your ear. Hammon's frustrated, and can you blame her? She's trying to keep her team focused on winning, but they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's not just about practice and games anymore. Now they've got to worry about their image, their brand, and all this off-court stuff. The Aces are learning the hard way that being on top comes with its own set of problems. Everyone's watching them, expecting them to be perfect on and off the court. That's a lot of pressure for anyone, even professional athletes. So now we've got a team that's struggling to find its rhythm. They're trying to live up to the hype of being champions while dealing with all these distractions. It's like they're playing two games at once, one on the court and one in the public eye. And here's the thing, this isn't just about the Aces, it's about the whole WNBA.
This game that was going pretty viral on social media was this clip here where Becky Hammon is getting super fired up in the huddle, and it looks like she is specifically pointing directly at Kelsey Plum. We haven't loved the way that Becky has conducted herself this season. There has been multiple things that have made me think about her maybe a little bit differently than I did in the past, and maybe it was because I hadn't seen as much. I don't really know the dynamic of Becky Hammon's coaching. I don't know if Kelsey Player is also a player that was kind of like me, who needs somebody to get in their face and get under their skin. Being a basketball player myself, I actually did better when coaches were a little bit on the tougher side. So for this clip in particular, I didn't read too much into it.
As the league gets more popular, more players are going to face these same challenges. How do you balance being a great athlete with being a celebrity? It's not easy, and the Aces are showing us just how tricky it. Just when you thought you knew what was bringing down the mighty Aces, the plot thickens. There's a perfect storm brewing in Las Vegas, and it's not just about being celebrities. What's really tearing this team apart from the inside?
One of the comments says, after the Hamby situation, having a roster of 4 starting Olympians, league MVP, and being paid a league high $1 million per year. The entire roster salary is $1.5 million. However, it was interesting to see how the internet reacted to this, because there was a lot of people saying, like, you know, what is going on in their locker room? Like, this Aces team is falling apart. This is not a coach that I would want to play for. Hammon is coaching for her job this round. And that comment is actually so interesting because, you guys, since the end of the WNBA season, 20% of WNBA coaches have already been fired.
Let's talk about injuries. They're like kryptonite for any team, but for the Aces, it's been brutal. Chelsea Gray, their star point guard, took a hit and hasn't been the same since. Her points per game, down to 8.6. Her shooting, a measly 40.8%. That's a far cry from her usual MVP level play. But it's not just Chelsea. The whole backcourt is struggling. Jackie Young's numbers are down. Kelsey Plum? She's scoring less than last season. It's like the entire team forgot how to shoot overnight. Now, here's where things get really messy. Remember Dearica Hamby? She's suing the Aces. Yeah, you heard that right. She's claiming they discriminated against her because she was pregnant. Talk about bad press. Imagine trying to focus on your game when your former teammate is taking you to court. And you know what's even crazier? During one game, fans were actually booing Hamby. The poor woman was dealing with severe anxiety and emotional distress. That's not just bad for Hamby. It's terrible for team morale.
Now, I do think that Coach Becky Hammon has a lot more job security than some of these coaches, but there's a point to be made here. Firstly, they are not the number 1, number 2, or number 3 seed in these WNBA playoffs, and they are about to be kicked by the New York Liberty in a sweep. Like, that kind of says a lot with the roster that you are given. For as much as the Aces have complained this season how they're not getting enough play, or Asia should have been Defensive Player of the Year and she wasn't, or set the stage for the rest of the WNBA, the rest of the WNBA teams, and how these women are able to monetize off their career, basically off their basketball career. You know, the list goes on and on of the things that the Aces have been in the media for. There should be no excuses as to why this team isn't performing.
How are you supposed to play your best when there's all this drama going on? The Aces are feeling the heat from all sides. The public's not happy, the media's having a field day, and the players, they're exhausted. Aja Wilson put it best. People talk and that's draining. That's exhausting to hear that every single day. Can you imagine trying to play basketball when everyone's just waiting for you to fail? Even their coach, Becky Hammon, is at her wit's end. She called her team the scariest average team in the W. Ouch. That's not exactly a vote of confidence from your leader. It's like they've got all the talent in the world, but they can't get it together on the court.
But Coach Becky Hammon isn't the only member of the Aces who is facing some scrutiny online this week. Asia Wilson was trending for multiple days on Twitter as there was this video going around of an exchange between her and Kelsey Plum. This video received quite a bit of backlash online, as it seemed like Asia Wilson was diminishing the accomplishments of players like Kelsey Plum and Paige Beckers.
Us as black women, Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say you're not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point.
And someone who is her teammate, it felt like she was giving Kelsey Plum a backhanded compliment.
And also, like, she's good at basketball, obviously. But, like, she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I think,
The pressure is real, folks. These players were on top of the world, and now they're scrambling to find their groove again. Wilson talked about needing to find that will, that grit, that hunger to compete. It's like they're trying to remember how to be champions all over again. You've got to wonder, how much of this is in their heads? They're dealing with injuries, lawsuits, public criticism, and their own sky-high expectations. That's a lot for anyone to handle, let alone professional athletes trying to defend a championship. And it's crazy how quickly things can change in sports. One minute you're the golden team, the next you're fighting for your playoff life. The Aces are learning the hard way that staying on top might be even harder than getting there in the first place.
This is not the only controversy that the Aces have been facing this season. Of course, we have talked about the Dearica Hamby lawsuit that is ongoing, and we are waiting to see how that will be settled or what will be the conclusion from that. And a lot of people, Aces fans, WNBA fans, Kelsey Plum fans, across the board really had a problem with this video, and it really left a sour taste in their mouth. But in the same regard, for this entire season, the WNBA has been investigating the $100,000 annual sponsorships that these Aces players have received.
Remember when everyone loved the Aces? Those days are over. The question is, why? What caused the darlings of the WNBA to become the league's most scrutinized team almost overnight? It all started with a heated argument. Picture this: Coach Becky Hammond and star player Kelsey Plum going at it on the sidelines. Fans were shocked. This wasn't the united front they were used to seeing. Suddenly, people started questioning what was really going on with the Aces. But that was just the beginning. The real bombshell dropped when former player Dearica Hamby filed a lawsuit against the team. She claimed they discriminated against her because she was pregnant. Can you imagine the backlash? The Aces went from champions to villains in the blink of an eye. And you know what's crazy? This was all happening while A'ja Wilson was breaking records left and right. She set the highest single season scoring record in WNBA history. But instead of celebrating, everyone was talking about the drama. The Aces tried to keep it together on the court. They even had a 9-1 record in their last 10 games before the playoffs. But something was off. They entered the playoffs as the 4th seed. 4th for a team that won back-to-back championships. That's a huge step down. Social media was blowing up with theories and hot takes. Every move the Aces made was under a microscope.
So in a nutshell, you guys, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority gave every player $100,000 annual sponsorship in addition to their WNBA salary. Have been investigating if this has been fair and follows the rules of the WNBA, CBA, and the rules of the salaries of these teams. Now, most of the players on the Aces do not even make 6 figures in their annual salary. A'ja Wilson and Kelsey Plum are the highest paid Aces at $200,000 each, and Gray is right behind them at $196,000.
1 minute, they're the dream team. The next, they're trending for all the wrong reasons. Coach Hammond knew they were in trouble. She said, when you've won, you don't have that same chip on your shoulder that other people have who haven't won. It's like they lost their hunger, their drive. They were too busy being celebrities to focus on being champions. The pressure was insane. Everyone was waiting for them to fail. And when they started struggling in the playoffs, it was like blood in the water. Critics pounced. Fans turned on them. The team that could do no wrong was suddenly doing everything wrong.
We have talked about it multiple times on my channel how WNBA players do need to get paid more in order to continue growing the league and keep players in the league and not lose them to overseas deals. Because if you think about it, it could become an unfair advantage if there are certain teams who have these big sponsors and are willing to pay a lot of money. It could become a situation where players don't mind taking less money, but I think that it came into question for this particular instance because every single player would be receiving the same endorsement / sponsorship deal.
It's crazy how fast things can change in sports. One day you're on top of the world, the next you're fighting for your life in the playoffs. The Aces learned the hard way that fame is a double-edged sword. It can lift you up, but it can also tear you down. So what's next for the Aces? They're dealing with a perfect storm of problems. Off-court distractions, injuries, and team drama have all hit them hard. It's like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Aja Wilson had an amazing season, but it wasn't enough to save the team. That's the thing about basketball. One superstar can't do it all. The Aces learned that the hard way. You've got to wonder, can they bounce back from this? Will they be able to find that hunger again? Or is this the end of their dynasty? Here's the crazy part. This could happen to any team. The Aces story shows us that success in sports is never guaranteed. One minute you're on top, the next you're fighting to stay relevant. That's what makes sports so exciting and so unpredictable.